Peace. Here still not at the school yet. I say this every time though, but make sure you email me and everything for my availability and all that. Um, haven't been able to make it. I try, but haven't been able to make it. So that's what it is. Peace, analog lady. Um, I want to get questions and everything, but I want to go through as we go along. I'll probably add some things that we should go through. Um, maybe even go through 1 to 10 in a different way, just for the sake of it. All right. In today's math, I want to see more builds on it because now we're in the double digits. Um, and I want to see what people are able to build with, all right? Because these are where we start combining the math and thus combining the principles. There's a lot of I'm trying to call it something that is as degrading as it is, but there's kind of a purism movement, and a lot of people aren't boring the math though, and they kind of it's almost like we presume that something wasn't done when the father was here, and then we kind of lose the way to judge things is whether if it was actually a good add-on or not, though a useful tool. That's the word today, useful. I always use the word useful for wisdom, wisdom, right? Once one has knowledge, when they use it and the usefulness exposed of it, that's what breaches into the understanding, the revelation of purpose, right? So if I build peace to the God, light visible, so even if you're just listening and stuff, to get that idea, because I feel like I have to repeat these things, you know what I mean? And eventually I'll be more regular at the school and establish this, Um, but that's important though. Like there's a balance though. I always say, when you learn a teaching of any kind that has a tradition, it could be martial arts or it could be this. They have a similarity to them. They have the similarity of being able to and having the necessity to preserve what has been done already. In martial arts, the moves, the forms, the way the form's integrity. In other words, not just knowing the form, but also knowing how it works, why it works. But in that last part, the why it works is where the student starts to expand, because the way that they use it is going to turn into a different why, an add-on why. It has to be proven, but it's going to be a different add-on why. So they might say things about it that augment the truth, but in a totally different way that might even, and usually, and if we're doing things correctly with the youth, should be challenging to us. um, the right things by the youth should actually be challenging to us. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to. They shouldn't be put on a square, um, to show and prove, but they have to. They have to challenge. So how do we get innovation? So the way I define that is, you get this knowledge of self. There's a mixture of perseverance in, or even now I have to say perseverance toward a logical preservation. Okay, a logical preservation, um, balancing what the youth need to have is a daring innovation. So it's a. I'm going to explain this more. These are the facets I look for. Like if someone's saying whether I teach correctly or not, or something like that, I'm looking for these things to develop in a student. They need to have um, the ability to preserve logically. What do I mean by preserve logically? Because this is the part where we go. Um, Today's mathematics is knowledge and understanding. I'm not going to build on it yet, but when people build on it, they go knowledge, and understanding, all being born to culture. Right? 1 + 3 = 4. This is all in the histories that we know. Let's say in the European world, this got adapted into the European world, and it's called the P.E.A.C.E system. It's used by numerology, but it's a system. Um, it's not a system of adding. Okay, 13 doesn't equal 4. If you have 13 somethings, you don't have 4 things. Obviously. And some people dismiss it, um, and I think that that's the wrong way. And I say that also to add on that some of the people that disagree with aren't people I abhor. Some of them, it could be the case, but in this case, though, I'm thinking of someone that I respect greatly. I just disagree with that mentality. Um, the supreme mathematics is a tool that shows us the what and how do we do, the creator, the nature of creation, the black woman, the earth. What and how do we do? What is the nature of us? How do we? What is the law and order of the universe? In other words, when we look back, how did it go? How did it go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right, and onward to 9? And when we build, what are the the steps of progression that we take, though? Because not everything goes 1, then 2, then 3, but we're looking for a certain flow, a certain rhythm, and that rhythm is in the logic of the meanings behind the supreme math. Okay, so when we do stuff, if we have something as boiling the mathematics, and then someone realizes them, and like I said, I do not bear witness to this, though. Every elder I ever learned from, and that's a long ass list. It's a long list. I learned with firstborns. I learned with first fruit, meaning the firstborns, the first ones to get this knowledge of self. The first fruit, the first students of those firstborn students. Okay, and no one ever told me not to bow in the mathematics, though. And that's from Mecca to Medina, right? All the way from Manhattan all the way into Brooklyn, right? So let's assume for argument's sake, though, that it is not something that was innovated by the father. That could still very well be the case, though. Um, I'm not sure. And I'm not sure because of the way people talk about things, the way they declare things, um, doesn't make sense. But this is something I spoke on a long time ago, but I'm really doing all this right now to shed some light on the pedagogy, the way of teaching, the way that I'm sharing things, the way that I think it needs to be shared. So even as people learn from me as a new student here, I'm also teaching the teachers that are out there teaching, and the mentality they need to take, though, when they deal with the youth. All right, that I think is useful, right? Um, so when someone says, "Oh, the father didn't do that," then we can't do it at all. Now, does it degrade the actual teaching? This is the first thing that you should say, right? We have logical preservation, and that's why I have to add logic, because it's a lot of illogical preservation. And what we have is the development of tradition. Let me say this now. Every time there is a strongly enforced, and certainly, I'm writing it down here. This is like my blackboard, this chat thing, and certainly with what's the word here? And absolutely, use mandated though. That's a dark back to the vaccines. I'm just all up in here, right? With an absolutely mandated, um, a strongly enforced, and certainly with an absolutely mandated um, tradition, right? Oh, nearly always develops. Here's a black boy though. You should copy these notes down. Absolutely always develops into religion, and I write it down so that way those who are reading it, the chat is up. You follow along. You take these notes and think about this. I don't want you to just say it's right, um, but to build on it. I have to do the knowledge to that. God, peace of the God. I have to do the knowledge to that. Yeah, and a strongly enforced and certainly with an absolutely mandated tradition nearly always develops into religion because you lose the necessity to ask why. In other words, some people are asking why because they don't know, but the idea is why is it useful? Why is it still worthy? Why is it still of merit? Is it still valid? These are the things that you have to ask with all the teachings at all the times. That's why I said that the knowledge degree, who is the original man, is always something explored and not something to be believed. And that's what I mean, the continuous development, like the great Jiddu Krishnamurti used to say. And I'll reverse it because he used the words knowledge as information, and the word information is the way we use knowledge. So I'll just paraphrase him. But he said that anytime something is accepted as knowledge, and you accept it as knowledge and do not test it again, then now you have turned that into a belief. So everything must be up for examination to, and the real purpose of that, even if you know something is true, is to bring out more insight out of it. So this logical preservation is what I'm talking about. If you born it, it doesn't take away the integrity of what knowledge is, the integrity of what understanding is. It actually brings a teaching tool when there is a mistake in that. Meaning this: somebody borns knowledge and understanding, right? I'm dealing with today's math, and they get it to culture, and they say something that isn't actually true. And oftentimes, what you expose is that they squeezed it and they made all the news that fits the print, right? The New York Times, right? That bullshit. And what happens is that when the teacher is listening to that build, they're seeing how they're fitting those principles and maybe fitting them incorrectly to make a statement that just explains something as opposed to really show their understanding of something. And see, when we have knowledge of self, since we are under the pressure to show and prove that we are God in a world that doesn't bear witness to this, then what happens is that we often end up into a cycle, a very bad cycle of explaining things. And that's also something that I say is very, very bad. You know, even as I sit here and someone will say, soon as you explain something really, really well, that, I'm using the word in many ways. So it's a little different. But so logical preservation, okay? Was there something, and this is something that it is the youth's responsibility to that ask that student, ask that teacher. If we are not doing this because this goes against tradition that we are establishing now because you said no. Once you say no to doing something, then you, whether good or bad, you're establishing a tradition, right? When we say something like that is right and exact, we say no pork, then we are establishing a tradition. Somebody says, well, what if I eat? No, we have established this tradition. We have established it. Now it's your job to go back and see why it is correct. We will, um, we will not take any variations on that. We have shown you why, and now, if you, even if you think you have proofs against it, you're on your own, kid. You know what I'm saying? However, when it comes to boning the mathematics, though, no one has ever said when we have knowledge and we have, and I'll build on it. When we have knowledge, though, that actual truth, that idea of creation that is in our head, and we have it attached to an actual understanding of revealed purpose, then that combines itself to be what? A lived reality, a culture, the culture that goes outward because the the um the culture that we live is all based on our understanding, whatever culture we live. And as I always teach, the 1, 2, and 3, right? The 1, 2, 3, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is a mental aspect primarily. And the 4, 5, 6, I call it the outer. So I call it the inner and the outer. And the 4, 5, 6, the culture, the power, the equality, that is something that has to be extended outwardly. You cannot see someone's culture if it is inside his mind only, right? You have to actually see the works that they create. Someone's power is not really felt on the inside as a mass. They have to see the culture extend and then extend outwardly in power. And it doesn't reach a level of equality, a proper position that that idea expressed as a culture has been placed into the world and has changed the world somehow and brought some kind of new type of balance, though, right? Or balance anew, I should say better, right? Um, so when we look at the supreme mathematics being born on a day like this, as we reach double digits, how could this be useless? Is really the question. You know, people say, "Oh, but 1 plus 2, 1 plus 3 doesn't equal 4." That was never the point of supreme mathematics. Supreme mathematics is not a system of equation application where you put it into equations and and if it doesn't work out that way, you take it out. The point was, it's a system of logic, a logic that's based on the way that all things are created by us. So that means that the system is a bunch of principles of recognizing our nature at certain points and then how we live them out. So combining those principles is crucial. It's a crucial exercise. You tell someone, well, they have the knowledge of this, a true fact and idea, and they have this understanding that they have, how would those two things merge? They often can become a culture, because isn't the culture based on people's true actual facts, ideas, creations, being creative ideas being merged with their understandings? That's what culture is. That's all that is around this, though. It is a combination of ideas based on ever-growing knowledge. So these principles match up and they make sense. Now, one of the great exercises for a student, I said, and I'll repeat this again because it's a very difficult concept, it could be. Um, when you test the student's abilities, you're testing them in applications. And when you deal with mathematics, one of the best ways to deal with students is to see them master equations. These equations aren't based on, well, if 1 plus 3 equals 4, that's not 13. It's the daily succession, because it's only 13. Let's think about this. The mathematics is only 13th because it's based on the calendar. See? But supreme mathematics by itself, any combination can happen. So let's take it out of the calendar, right? We take the 13 out of the calendar and we have it here, 1 and 3. We have 1 and 3 here. It means that those two numbers, right? Those two numbers here, 1 and then 3, they can be added up no matter what. These are two principles that can be added up and lead to a succession and a continuation of progression of supreme math. So that means that when people look at the the saying and said the father didn't teach that, it's not right and exact, we're not going to do it anymore, they've thrown away a great teaching tool. You see? And these are conversations, though, that a lot of conversations, unless I put muscle down or the threat of muscle, people don't want to hear that. And that's unacceptable in our nation. So as I have spent so much time, though, working on how we communicate to the outside world, the 85%, the people that we're trying to share to, right? And trying to combat the effects of the 10%, those who are bloodsucking us. It's almost like we've lost our ability to communicate with each other and have gone on this blanket warpath of ill-conceived preservation, which is leading into tradition, which certainly by its lack of logic is going to fall into a very religious way of dealing with knowledge. And that is one of the most oxymoronic things I have heard in my life. It is mind blowing. So when I go back to these ideas of logical preservation, this is what I mean by that. We look at it and say, listen, honestly, this is what the Father wanted us to do. He wanted us to be able to use these principles and be able to combine them, because that's how you create. Oftentimes we say that everything is created by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and up to born, knowledge to born, and add on the cipher. What happens is that as we're building, the degrees that highlight most in our mind are the degrees that might be lacking. And how do we combine those things? What are the missing elements, though? What is the aspects of knowledge missing? What is the aspects of understanding that's missing to achieve this way that we're trying to achieve, right? Which would be culture. This is what I mean. Okay. Let me look who's on here. Peace to the God, Malik. Halftime. Haven't seen you here in a while. Malik, if there's any question about what I said, let me finish this off before I read Malik's build on today's degree, today's mathematics, I should say. There has to be a mixture of this logical preservation, but also daring innovation. And if borning the mathematics on each date is not an exercise of daring innovation that wasn't done by the Father, then it is one of the greatest and possibly the greatest add-ons of daring innovation that our nation has ever had. We have a system. We have to live every day. So we have to go by this calendar, and we study the patterns of the calendar, and we study them with respect and in combination with how the day goes. So we always have reminders, whether they be mantras, today's knowledge and understanding. We're going to focus on that. Knowledge and understanding will be born in culture. That means that the things I know and the things I understand will combine to be a culture. I just said it simply so that way it could be used as a mantra, or it could be the way I just had built on it on a much more deeper level. But these are the things that become profound, profound. They cannot be devalued. You cannot devalue this by saying the Father didn't teach that. That's unacceptable, and it's disrespectful to him. Again, I'm going to say this again. The one argument people use is actually an argument the Father has never given. I can guarantee you, all the things I learned from the elders, the Father never gave his reasoning behind something and said, it's the way that I'm teaching it. Because if you said the Father didn't teach that, that's the reason why. But he never said, I'm not, I don't, that's not what I'm doing. And that's why it's wrong. See? Now with other people, yes, you can have other people like Robert Walker and others that came with different things, and he would tell them, you do what you do, and I'm doing what I do. You do that over there. But that's different because Robert Walker was already seasoned and already knew the teachings of Allah and the 5%. So there's no reason. There was beyond an explanation that was needed, though. And that conversation was already over. So when people use examples like that, that's not Robert Walker was challenging, and he was not a student. He was not listening as a student. So we're taking an example of someone that has gone off the deep end, just in case, because I'll go back and forth with this. But we have to look at what is logically preserved and stuff. When I started to teach, though, I used to go really, I used to teach about books and show what degrees that they would be relevant in. But sometimes people would often walk in and only see me talking about books. Now today, so many 5%ers, and I'm not saying that I'm the one that innovated this. You know what I'm saying? But I have the proofs of being there, to have done it for a long time, to have it be seen. Now people are willing to take books, and even we write books now That supplement 120, that shall improve it though, that expand on our own understanding and detail that. So what was seen as not proper preservation was not tested for its logic. And so any of us with daring innovation had to continue daring. And so we did and we do and we did, you know, right? All right. Definitely supplement with that because I am later with the CLR build on the Allah School of Mecca page. I'm very curious to see what he said. Malik, you said the knowledge one idea of awareness, right? The foundation. Yes, this is there it is. Infinite through finite existence, understanding the revelation of purpose, comprehension, clarity via wisdom, being a mission. Indeed, Malik. Yeah, these words though, the idea of awareness, to understanding the revelation of purpose. These are from my plus lesson that I give out to the students, right? Um, and just give you an idea to get a better grasp of it. You know. Oh, that's peace halftime. Okay, work schedule change. All right. Peace of the God, infinite mind. All right. So, being the mission, bringing forth the culture where the Creator creates and the culmination of our daily activities thus far. That's good, Malik. You're showing that you understand what I shared with you. You know, as we go along, though, I want to hear your words. Okay. You know, whenever I give out the plus lessons and stuff like that, I want people to catapult off what I've shared. You know, and have your own unique insights to it and your own unique wordage. Um, you've shown me you understand it, and then we develop into our own understanding of it, though. You know, so I'll take a pause there. You know, with my blasphemous teaching here. Yeah, I don't know if King is on here today, but peace of the God, King Kamal. Got some comments on last week's class and stuff like that. You know, some of them is funny. Symmetry, peace of the God, peace of the God. He just gave a shout out for the whole world, though. That's that MC shit. You can't give a shout out just for a couple of square miles, though. They got to do the whole globe. You know, piece of the go. So if I build, you said my psyche knowledge is a world in which I work on daily. Interesting. In order to fully grasp means understanding on my own habits and tendencies, culture, self control is a major component. Build on this. So, why did you equate knowledge with psyche? With your psyche specifically? That's really interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Um, I guess so. If we use it here, you know what I mean? Like it's more of like the mental state. You know what I mean? Um, I like it. I like it. I don't disagree with that self I build. I actually think that makes sense. You know? Right? Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know? Because when we look at knowledge though, we're looking at you I often when I build with it, it's often that particular idea, that actual fact, right? Something created out of the mind, how it projects. Um, but to look at it as the whole state of the mind to begin with, I see that. That's profound to me. Yeah, I do see that. You know. Mm. All right. Um, Let me know anybody's built any questions about anything. I kind of wait. In a traditional classroom, what you want to do, and this is for the people that educate, that build, what you want to do is find out what people are about. What I mean? You want to learn about them, ask questions about them. It's important that even if you could probably teach someone without really knowing their whole journey, that you learn that whole journey. You know what I'm saying? Um, because a lot of people don't know why they end up in that room, why they end up in the school, sitting in that room, why they're there. And that's something that's very important, though. I think I'm not saying that it was done wrong, but I think it's important that um, we constantly make sure that the student articulate, put into words why they're in there to learn. And even that we teach them certain things, we have them articulated again, because the first time may be curiosity. Once they learn, though, then they may be coming back, but they might feel, you got to understand that being true and living, there's a lot of power that comes with the way we do. And there's a magnetic. That magnetic may not be what they want to study. You know what I mean? You know, they may not see it themselves and they may have to do different things. At the same time, though, a teacher's a person that gives assignments. And if you don't know about the student in something so specific as the knowledge itself, totally different to every other individual, no matter how many times that knowledge degree is quoted the same way, it is different for every single person, right? There are some people that see themselves as the original man. There are people that see themselves as the Asiatic black man. There are people that see themselves as the father of civilization. There are people that see themselves as God but don't know the entire Asiatic umbrella of original people. There are people that see themselves as the original man, but they don't really understand how they are black. You see, so there's so many facets to that, right? And so many journeys of what I call that 9,000 miles um, to swim. And they are all different paths. And if the teacher is building a if the teacher's building without really going into those things, then they are building in a generic way that um, is just not good enough. It's not good enough for this day and time. You know, Rakim, peace to God. That's peace, Malik. All right. So anybody that has any questions and stuff, I mean, you know, a lot of the students on this, that we build on here digitally, a lot of y'all are older. You know what I'm saying? And I think that there has to be a learning of a strategy because as you're older, you actually will be better students. Being a better student, you will learn things faster and be able, excuse me, to share and hopefully get into a state where you experiment with the things that you learn and develop your own creativity out of all this. I think personally that the failure of any curriculum in this sense is that the more that we learn this, the we're not really, it's not a demand, but expecting and putting that as part of the curriculum, the necessity to create things. You know what I mean? I mean, it was always in there, but only in the be fruitful and multiply type of creation, not really with everything else, you know? And that's important though. So I think that when I have my plus lesson and I give that out, the justice curriculum, and I give out all of these other fields of study, that is a reason I give those fields of study because not just to endeavor them into them as things to study, but also as as things to engage in. You know what I mean? Not just to study music, but maybe to engage in it if you have never tried. Um, if and if for nobody else, just to learn something. You know what I'm saying? Right? Or just to try different forms of expression to see how you will express yourself. A lot of people aren't creative because they haven't done the first step. They haven't tried to express themselves in different ways. Right? So how could you express yourself if you don't if you aren't willing to try the forms by which you express yourself? You know? This is a great limitation, you know? Right, right. That's right, Malik. Knowing the students in the facets of civilization learned or being taught. Symmetry, you said teaching and training involves truly observing, having acceptance of not just what a student needs, but also how they learn. That's right. You know, symmetry, I know that just as myself, you very well read in the in a lot of the Sufic texts, you know, and a lot of the ancient Sufic texts, all of their parables and fables are all based on that. Like they have whole fables on the idea of how is this person learning? How do they learn? You know, and that influenced the three things that I tell every student when they walk into a classroom, which is the first thing is to spend the time to finally, if they have never done it overtly, to gauge their teacher. You know what I'm saying? To qualify, disqualify the teacher. You know, I expect to be qualified or disqualified. Trust me, I get just so people have not felt me and disqualified me. Right? And they could get their ass right out, right? And that's cool. Um, but I want them to know that that's what they should be doing, right? Um, of course, though, the criteria is where I'm getting at here, and that people have a criteria to be observant of what they're learning, what is going in their memory. You know, because sometimes the students' problems could be not that they're not learning the right things, but they're not absorbing the right things, and the things that are not useful they're remembering, and the things that are useful they're forgetting, or the outlets by which they learn though are not very, they're not well suited for them. So some people are good at lecture Other people are good at watching lectures, right? Big difference. Um, but some are not suited for reading books. Now, when you come to that realization, though, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you found your way and now you never read a book again. The truth is that you won't be a good student if you don't read books. So now, acknowledging that you're not a good reader, what are the ways to help that? You know what I'm saying? Right? Better diet, better sleep. Most people are shitty readers because they don't sleep enough. That's that's it. It's nothing else. They're not good readers because they don't sleep enough. That's really that it. You know. Um, Others because they eat the wrong foods though, so they get in the itis all the time when they try to read. Um, but those are the main reasons. You know, if I had to pick them, you know. Aside from discipline, discipline is always a reason why things don't get done. You know what I mean? But specific to reading, we'd probably say this falling asleep while you read. But discipline, if you don't open the book, it'll never get read. You know, and some people have trouble opening that book. You know what I'm saying? And opening them. This is why I also advocate like having a digital collection where it's on your phone and stuff like that. Turn your phone into something useful. You know what I mean? My phone isn't really used for play. I have, um, it's mainly a computer with books and my the work writings I'm working on and access to all my writings I'm working on, access to about 90% of my digital catalog, right? And music, because that's what I do, right? But all of that is important, right? Right. Yeah, that's another reason, another big reason. Or the interest isn't there to read, or it may seem mundane. But if someone realizes that they're not reading well, and that's why they don't really know enough about certain subjects that they want to learn, then what happens is they have to get the medal, the METTLE, to prevail and get themselves to study at those. So now it's about choosing the right book that leads up to it. You know what I mean? So instead of quitting the subject, a lot of times you get a simpler book on the subject and building your way up. You know, getting into flows and stuff. Like I read to um a lot of music with a consistent groove, right? Soul jazz, a lot of organ jazz, salsa, um, a lot of funk, music with a groove. So I get tapped into that groove, you know what I mean? And I go at that pace, and the faster the better, So these are tricks, I mean? These are tricks. Reading brings distractions, and for me, music, when I play music, it controls one of the variables of sound that are around me. You know what I mean? So people's reactions, noise, or anything is not relevant. I have controlled that variable with the music. Right, right. And they also have to acknowledge that, like what you said, using to gain information via TV or internet video, that no matter how true it might be, it is it's a poor major source. You know, it's a poor major source, and that's why people end up let's say, even if the what is shown is true, you have terrible misunderstandings, or no real platform to have your own understanding. You just mimic the understanding that was presented, because you really didn't learn that much from that forum. Do you think it's self-I build acts? Do you think it's fear? It's a fear of being exposed to opposing views and just being comfortable with one thinks they know. It's always that self-I build. Understand that the hardest thing about teaching anyone the knowledge of is their preconceived notions. Just because they walk into it, just because they encounter things that sound so linked with what the mathematics is, doesn't mean that they actually are good at opposing views. And that's why I said willing to learn. Who is willing to learn? Right? 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 Taking things on face value is the worst thing, Malik. But a lot of people don't know what's not face value, you know? Like, when does it entail face value, right? Crypto ocho. Knowledge, understanding. Knowledge being the first, the original man. Understanding being the fruit of knowing self. All being born unto freedom, which is the highest form of self expression. See, and when we say these correct statements, as Crypto said, what we also want to do is find a real life understanding to it. Like, how is that possible in real life? These statements sound correct, but then how is it actually applied? How is it made vivid? Right? How is it made vivid? You know, a willingness to learn by letting the 5% teach you, right? Malik, you said reading is a way to find out what, who, where, when, and how, and a meaningful way to exercise the mind. Yeah, I think that when if people don't really read well on the subject, sometimes if they get practice with something else, they'll read better. You know what I mean? Um, if they get practice reading on things that they don't like, a lot of times, like if you're into sports, though, read sports biographies. You know, read a book about sports. You know, do that. You know? And anytime, like when my speed is not right, when my reading speed is not right, I read a book that is, for all intents and purposes, fun. You know what I'm saying? Right? As we go along, what the person then considers fun ends up being quite deep. You know what I'm saying? Right? Malik, because it is not challenged, almost done in the 85 mindset, easily led. Um, all right, kids are Quaco. You said reading to me is like exercise for the mind. Okay, that's the same way I shadow box, hit the mids, or spar to exercise the body. Absolutely. And if you want to be a writer, though, you won't be a better writer without reading. You know, you keep that dictionary, the source close. This is also why I advocate the digital, though. You know what I mean? Apps like Google Playbooks and stuff have dictionaries inside of them. You know what I'm saying? All you have to do is highlight the word and you're there, right? Um, Symmetry, you said one must have a willingness to learn or they'll never be able to answer the question, what is his own self? Yeah. I think, too, a big, a natural problem. I'm not going to say it's a big problem. It's a natural problem that this knowledge of self is difficult because people don't want to question their realities. And then it becomes, the more personalized it gets, the actual more difficult it gets. And I say it's a natural problem because it's actually weeding out those who are not really worthy, you know. And that's also another thing that happens if the tradition gets too traditional, too enforced, without any questions and answers to it. Then you have a lot of people that are like that, and you don't even know you are filling the ranks, um, with people that have not taken the personalized question, what is his own self, to a real conclusion, right? Being read to by another can also foster an interest in reading for those who don't gravitate to reading on their own. That's true. I agree. I agree. Um, the way I was taught to read by my older remembered imperfection, um, it was more like exercise. It was more like working out. It was good. It was going to be fun. It's going to be fruitful, but you've got to do it like it's training. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to become a better reader, though, you've got to force yourself. You're not going to be a better reader by like saying like, "Oh, I wish I found the right book." And nah, nah. And you know what? The way people are on social media, though, they probably read pages and pages in each day. You know, each day. You know? Okay. Let me know if there's any questions of any kind. Today. Um, and also too, I have been working on the Earth book list that I talked about. I don't know if it's complete, but there's a couple of Earths that I'm throwing the book list at, just for them to look at it and stuff. And I thought that it definitely needs like a look through on that level. So I'll be sending that out soon to get looked. So it's at that stage, you know. I feel it's kind of pompous for me to just make a Earth book list and then it's not. The only reason it's relevant is because I could teach and I read a lot of books, but and can find many books, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't use like a purview add-on critiques, right? So that's where I'm at with that, you know. Also, too, I wanted to make that book list something that I could get for everybody. So when I give it out, there's no book on that list that I can't share. I cannot say the same, even when I update it for the 50 book beginner list, which I am going to update. There's a couple of books out there that I don't even have because I lost it. I know there's one book I had the hidden history of New York in there, and I had it on the beginner book list because it's so important to know New York history if you have knowledge of self. I don't care where you are in the globe. You don't know. You're not studying New York. You don't know New York history. Um, you did this knowledge of this service. This is where This is where it's rooted, Mecca. You know. But the one book that'll always remain that's hard out of print for what I know is The Mayor's Man by Barry Gothard. You know. I think it's out of print. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, selling it for 200. I mean, look, I just eBayed it. They got the Mayor's Man paperback. And that's not even hardcover. They got it for $1,515. I'm gonna tell you something. The writing is not even close to being worth that. You know what I mean? If anything, if it's like that, I may offer the students at least a uh, maybe I'll like make a find some kind of PDF of it. You know, but really, it's the chapter "A Man Called the Law" that you're looking for in that book. You know, kids, you said my older said she started reading to my siblings and me in the womb. As soon as she felt pregnant, she would read aloud to her other. That's beautiful. Both my children, when they were little, I used to read them Langston Hughes poetry because Langston Hughes poetry is so creative, but also written in so many vocal styles because there's so many characters in his poetry. And I would try to have fun with it and read it in like those characters. I thought it was terrible. I would never want to read it to anybody else but my kids. But they would get the idea of different sounds and stuff like that. So it's great. Peace be born. Malik said the way you teach is making owning the world we attend and question and thus exponentially growing at an ever increasing rate that's unique within itself. I would hope so. I would hope so. So I'm wasting my time here. Right? And we want to be useful. We want to be useful. It's one of the reasons I haven't just gone to the school because I haven't been able to be there regularly. So I need to be there regularly, not sporadically. That hasn't worked. So when I get to the school regularly, then I will be there regularly, as always. But consistency is important. Okay. Symmetry, you said you learned to MC by sitting and watching my older lip reading the books she read. Studying the cadence of words was the foundation for me. That's amazing. That's amazing, guy. took it back that far that you could see the influence, the relevance. It's amazing. That's real peace, God. The Yeah, now with so many books about so many different subjects, there really shouldn't be a reason for you not to get in. And listen, if you're trying to get into reading but you don't have the right books, that's also part of the curriculum here. So you email me. Um, I talk about those book lists, but I have a huge library, and that is part of the students in the classroom. You know, like for anyone listening, watching, I offer these books for the classroom. However, the students that are really engaged with me, um, you have access to all my books. You know what I'm saying? And of course, I would show you how. I would tell you how what you would have to do for that. But it's all within the realm. But if you're having trouble picking out some books or anything like that, I could always help you and give you a range of them. You know, not just give you suggestions, but actually give them to you. Give you the actual digital book. You know what I mean? Um, and that could start you. That could start you. You know. Also, anything, since we're talking about reading, a major thing, like I was saying about sleep, also training, working out, being fit. These affect the way that you read. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's an intense mental activity, though. One of the most relaxing, but also one of the most intense, though. So it has such a range of ex, exertion, such a range of exertion that's possible with reading, depending on the topics, depending on the issues. So if you're actually keeping in shape, working out, the mind is sharper. It's also sharper to ideas, If you need ideas for things, this is me. I have found that training is working out, exercising vigorously, intensely. None of that bullshit. Don't give me 10 push-ups and be like, oh, I worked out, or I did 5 push-ups, or I did a set of push-ups. I mean real vigorous exercise, not let me see if my body still works kind of exercise, something vigorous. If your workouts aren't like a start at a vigorous, at least vigorous 10 to 15 minutes, you're not working out. And I don't care what you say. You're doing a set of something. You're just charging the body, you know? But it's the same as a phone though. It's like you charged it for like 5 minutes and you were at zero. That's not impressive, you know? And I'm not here to sugarcoat it for you, for any of you that, you go, oh, before I go to bed, I do 50 push-ups and shit. This whole world is crumbling though, and that's what you think is gonna get you at a warrior level, you know? A 50 clip. Even if you have trouble doing that 50 clip, then you should already know that you need to get more intense with it. But a 50 clip, whether it's done with great difficulty or not, that's not even a 5 minute workout. You know, we have to develop things greater. Like there's so many excuses. So many. Well, that's good. That's a little add on. It's like I'm not here to sugarcoat that for you. You know, I'm not here to sugarcoat that for you. You know, you develop a program, the parts of your body, your legs. What will you do for that? What will you do for your upper body? What will you do for your abs? You know what I mean? And do it, and it has to be longer than just a little bit. You know, it's interesting symmetry. You answered Malik that way. Um, there was something that was said last week on a poll. Um, no, I think I answered this. You know, but I don't know where people's reading comprehension is. You know what I mean? When it comes to the lessons, though, they tell you like that lesson doesn't mean that, or that's not what it meant. And I'm like, how do you? First off, where's your form? Where's your proof about what Elijah meant when he wrote something, as opposed to going with what he actually said? You know. So he said it though, but that's not really what he meant. You know. And I'm referring to the 33rd degree and the 1 to 40. Any man, what is a real devil? Any man which is made weak and wicked. It's telling me that the word real got put in later. It doesn't matter. You know. Um, any man which is made weak and wicked, or any live grafted germ. So that means that's two different things, right? Right? Any man which is made weak and wicked, or any live grafted germ from the original. You can't say that that's lumped together in the same thing. It's or. It's I. That means that it could be both together or. And any man which is made weak and wicked does not just apply to the grafted man, you know? Because this society that the society itself causes the weakening of the individual, so there is always the potential for the wickedness of of any individual. And that's the whole point of double civilization. Whatever cannot be reproduced genetically can still be produced epigenetically, meaning through the environment affecting the genetic reality. As the repetition of things get encoded into the DNA of action and response, and then it continues to the next generation, right? So I just wanted to add that on because somebody had said that and stuff. You know what I mean? Um, it is what it is. All right. Um, I'm gonna need to. You know what? I don't have my water here. I gotta go get it. Let me take a break and I'll be back. All right. I gotta get some water. All right. Peace, freedom. All right, that's real. Hey, I try to be as real as possible. Okay. So, okay. Also, too, what gets negated when we talk about like build and stuff is like how we build with the alphabet, and I've always taught that the alphabet is an extension of the language by broadening the the details of mathematics, and that's why the mathematics that goes along with the actual letter is very important. You know what I'm saying? So that's important. You know, devil civilization and existence is two different things, and without understanding the two, in my opinion, misunderstandings take place. Yeah, that's my pop's ringtone. You heard, yeah, Benny Hill. Yeah, at the end, yeah, where he gets chased by the women he violated, the ugly wife that hates him, that's running him down, the coppers, and everybody else. Yeah, it's always right at the mob. Man. Nobody knows about that. Benny Hill could definitely would be canceled today. Absolutely. He even had an episode where he was in blackface. You know, he's like a he's like a cool disco brother. You know what I mean? He got like the shirt open and it's all he's all painted black from the head to the V. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It was wild. It was really wild back then. Yeah. So I used to see that shit as a kid though. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, and the show, yeah, it was just called the Benny Hill Show. Benny Hill. Right. I think sometimes we don't achieve that things that we need to because we don't have time, and they are insurmountable things. Um, but con- do not abandon the goal. Adjust the goal to the times that you have. You know what I mean? Right. So that's important. You know, that's something Confucius used to talk about. You know, because they would figure that if the goal was righteous, though, why would you abandon it because it has not been planned correctly to be done? You know what I mean? What you would do is you would fix the way that the goal is approached. You know, so for these things, like a lot of times, if you set a certain amount of time and focus, you get more out of it. You know. Okay. And I think everybody should have a journal. Everyone who's my student here, like serious student, should have a journal. Okay, they need to get that journal quickly and start writing. Gauge your progress. Be honest about what you're doing. The you know have a true humility. You know, not just in seeing that what you think is grand is not so grand about what you're doing, but also that what you see that you are doing is actually acknowledged by you. So that way you could learn and study how to duplicate and elevate that action. That work that you're doing. You know? But any questions? There's people here. I see more than the amount of people in the chat. So if you're there, ask a question. Any question is valid. You know, I don't know of any questions I don't answer. You know, right? Using the notes features in Apple. Yeah. Because I write so much and I make books on the computer and essays and stuff, I love to have the journals, and I always had the journals. You know what I mean? This is October, so with 2 months left, I should be able to finish my 70th journal. And these are all 200-page journals, except for the first one. That was only 80 sheets. Um, but ever since then, I've been using the 200-page composition book. So by the end of the year, I should finish 70 of them. Right? Just think about the small gains, though. For example, for me, it's not a lot to write 20 pages a week, but it allows me to get the muscle work in and then really write off that. Like the jump shots in the gym. But when you think about it, 20 pages a week, that's a journal every 2 months, 200 pages. Over a whole year, that's 1,000 pages, though. And I had written so many things for a lot of years where I didn't write in my journals. And when I got back into it, I just gave myself a set amount. Um, and I have done at least 1,000 pages for the last 2 years, definitely. But never a year where almost every year has at least one journal done, at least 200 pages at the bare minimum. But now that I write regularly, that's not good enough. Yeah, Senator, you even know the characters. Yeah, man. It's really he really was funny. You know what I mean? Even though he had some bullshit. Man. Self I built in regards to master, right? The 13th letter. What are some of the necessary things that one should work on mastering as a student? Well, a lot since we're talking about reading a lot, obviously reading, but when we discuss reading and stuff, we're really talking about the ability to be in positions to collect, to collect information, you know. So yeah, you're a writer, guy. Like I can imagine how many composition books you got. You know what I mean? Yeah, good question, crypto. I think that, but self I build asked me a loaded one. In fact, self I build, I can't believe I still have to get you those first emails out of all the great questions that we were going back and that we were going through. Um, I lost track of that this week. You know, it'd be a great thing to answer those emails when I take a break from what I'm writing. You know, finishing a book now, so the next reel of 2022 It's a lot of music, so when my palate is overdrawn, I have to get out of hip hop. Maybe do those emails. All right, with some nice soul music playing and something. Um, but the mastery of a student, right, is the mastery of metal. The practicing the ability to finish things that are correct. That would be the first thing I would say. Mastering the things that are right and exact. Mastering the ability to finish. That's why books are so important, because to be able to finish that book, go from from the beginning to the end, be a finisher. You know what I'm saying? There are books you're gonna read that are really not useful, and you're gonna realize that sooner than later, sooner than the end of it, and you'll ditch it, and that's okay. But there's a lot of books that are worthwhile. They may not be as worthwhile as you think. Those are the ones you want to finish too. You know what I'm saying? Um, but being a finisher of the actual books is very crucial. That metal to be able to finish what you started though is such the greatest practice from to take things from now to born. There's too many brothers that I know, too many artists I know, too many gods that I know, that they're geniuses of the knowledge that brings an understanding, but they don't take their culture all the way to born, and they don't complete things. And that inability to complete though is paramount, to our demise. You know, as a people, we have to know how to be a finisher and finish the damn thing. You know, that's important, right? Um, so if I had to say, that would be one thing. You know, um, as you go along as a student, developing your own curriculum of education that you engage in. You know, what are the books you're going to read? How will you be a regular reader? What are the standards of the reading for your own personal life? What are the standards for what you may write? What are the expectations, though? I do these things, and then what do I expect out of them? Do I expect greater understanding? Do I expect greater creative abilities? What do I expect to develop out of all of this? That's what I mean by developing your own curriculum. Your curriculum comes not just in what you will do, but also the expectations of what you are doing. And that's what makes a curriculum a curriculum. Making your own personal curriculum is crucial. You know, I leave those things as things that I would start as a student. You know, crypto, you said, is prayer applicable to the 5%? Only when people abuse what the word means, then it becomes applicable. Because people keep redefining the word. Prayer is talking to yourself or talking out loud to a mysterious being, energy, or force to help you do the shit that you cannot do and that you've been convinced that you cannot do and can get no real actual help with, or be wise enough to get to the position to find people and places or things that could get you to that solution. And so you say, it is in God's hands, it is in this hands, it is in the universe's hands, and they will do the drawing up for you. But really, everything that gets drawn up though is really your own thoughts being projected into the universe though, and finding that reality. And so when people talk about prayer, I just I cannot bear witness to it. I do not think it is applicable. You know what I'm saying? You know, it has similarities to the kind of meditative abilities we develop of concentration to a goal, concentration to letting go. Right, that's a major focus of meditation. Right, concentration to develop a stronger mentality of awareness to yourself and all things around you. But that's where it ends for me. You know, that's where it ends for me, because the direction of prayer, by definition, is to a mystery of some kind. You know, and the qualities that I just mentioned about prayer, that concentration, is not home to prayer. It is not home to prayer, and so prayer is not that. For lack of a better word, you know, for lack of a better word, is a understatement and more of an exposure of a lazy vocabulary. But us as 5%ers, we don't have time to be using shitty vocabulary that confuses people and say, well, we do pray, but we pray differently. No, no, no. This isn't a DJ mix though. You know, you put the cuts this way, push the cuts that way. This ain't it. No, that ain't it. You know, right? That's peace self I build. You know? Symmetry. You said you asked me, how do you deal with questions from students that are steeped in existentialism? Um, I'm trying to think. I've never gotten questions about like where people are acknowledging their existentialism. But first, I try to get like where they're coming from with the questions. Sometimes if you see the framework of where they come with a question, like what have they read about existentialism, what do they think about it, how do they define it, you know, then that helps more than me just trying to like give a, I don't know, a most likely dismissive answer to existentialism, you know, right? But because people come out of mystery, the main thing that they question that they have is that idea of existentialism. Like, if there's no mystery God, then what is the measure of our free will? Since we are still in these finite bodies, and still that we are succumb to the realities of certain things that don't seem to be in, for all intents and purposes, are not under our command, right? How do we do that, right? And the truth is that we are a reality of creators. This is what I always say, symmetry. This whole world is based on a reality of creators creating this world. And so the works of Sunez are going to either coincide with the works of symmetry, or they will collide. They will, um, clash. You know, and the truth is that even as they clash, though, they still might be all within the works of the true and living God, right? And so when we talk about existentialism, there there are some things that are not so. Also, too, there's a limit to existentialism, people's free will and their ability, because we don't all have the knowledge of self, and we have not all embraced this as a reality, a proven reality, right? But when they talk about the journey, like those specific questions like that, where do we go when we die? Do we have a soul? Um, Confucius used to say, like, why are you so worried about that when you don't do too well here? You should throw them darts. You know what I mean? But I say this. This is what I really say. I started to say remembered imperfection. So when you see like that word being used for RIP, whether people say like rest in perfection, which to me it's not rest, but I'm gonna tell you why. When when I say remembered imperfection, is because this is our act of of memorializing them, those elders that we loved, all those greats that passed away, whoever it was, loved ones. It's our perspective, not theirs. We don't know exactly what they are doing, right? But if the nature, that energy that is real, that is a special thing to that individual that cannot be duplicated, if that continues to travel as a mind thought, as an accumulated reality, then in whatever form it takes in some other place, though, right, in some other, really would not be place, but really a field of operation, really, then that means that this entire life, though, was a development for how it would be for the next level, right? To use terms in that sense, right? And so what matters more, though, is that if there is something else, then you're not preparing correctly for that either. You know what I mean? And they might as well do the karmic, not the karmic, but you know, what's it called? I don't know why I'm forgetting this word. Reincarnation. They might as well reincarnate your ass, though. You know, if you're not here properly preparing, though, for the possibility of more. You know, like people say like R.I.P., rest in peace and stuff, and I thought about my old Earth when she returned. I said my mother was always working. And I don't mean like working jobs and shit like that. I mean like working, building, thinking. She's not going somewhere to sleep. She's not going somewhere to rest. You know, she might be more free where she's at, and I would hope so. But that mind is continuing to develop, right? If we're thinking about it as that energy like that, then if it's an encapsulated energy that is not dispersed in that way, because that's what we don't know. Like this energy that causes all this, how is it dispersed? You know, and if we say that it is dispersed in a coherent reality, then what is that? You know what I'm saying? It would be one though where there would be much more work and preparation would be needed for that particular performance, and right, and so then this reality would be that preparation, you know. And if you didn't know anything, just like in real life, if you didn't know anything about where you were going, the best, the smartest thing to do would be to prepare for wherever you were going. And so that would be my answer to that, you know, right? As far as soul, I name my daughter Soul. So this idea of every unique essence having a reality, I bear witness to that. And I also bear witness that there is of that possibility, because the realms of this, of what we create, are vast though, and they could be endless, just as the nature of our way of creating, you see. So instead of thinking of like alternate universes and things like that, what may be alternate though is a different level of existence, you know, right? So you know, if that answers the question. It's such a hard, endless question. 793, you said, though through the best part I display freely in how I live it out, one is able to show one's foundation by bricks placed in proper order to properly influence, teach, and bring forth tangible fruit in the season. Okay, okay, a true statement. You know what? I agree with that 100%. Symmetry. Prayer is a misunderstanding of the science and practice of meditation, you know? And these are the same people that meditate and they're thinking about money, or they think about things, you know? You know, it's not fucking meditation, you know? I don't know if I'm familiar with the story of the poison arrow and the monk. Gotta do the knowledge to that. All right, here we go. Where am I here? All right, I'm gonna look that up though. I see it's a Buddhist parable. You know, crypto. You said I see prayer as meditation as well. Thought is infinite energy. Yeah, see, but like the reasons before is why I don't see it that way. You know, um, meditation is much more profound, much more letting go. Prayer is targeted, and meditation at its peak is not targeted. You know, so, and it's certainly not targeted toward mysterious things. Even the meditation work of a lot of the Hindu sects, right? Like the Raja and all those, the Raja Yoga and others, they're not meditating to something that doesn't exist. They're some meditating to something that very specific, you know. And so prayer would be a bastardization of that. Prayer is to focus your thoughts on a mystery aiding you. That's what prayer means. That's how people use it today. Um, and it only causes confusion, you know, to see it as synonymous. You said thought is an infinite energy. When a neuron transmitter fires up a neuron, travels through the neural pathways, it hits a natural receptor, it creates electricity. Energy cannot be created, not destroyed, but transferred. I see that. That doesn't prove that prayer is meditation, though, right? Okay, I see my brother VC Realm. Okay, VC Realm. See you. Oh man. I always tell everybody after Thursday's class, every time I teach, I don't know shit. Everything begins anew. I don't know enough. It's always back to square one, you know? Right? Yeah, all right. I appreciate everyone that shares the class link and everything. That's peace. That's peace. You know? You know, for those that have the Peace Corps book, and if anybody wants it, you know what I'm saying? Um, that is a collection of essays that really are on my understanding, and they are not crucial for you to learn with me. They encapsulate a lot of my understanding, though, in creative writing. Um, and they show a lot of my journey as I've written in this nation. Um, but they're powered by the two essays, large, long essays, The Kite of Perfection and The Blackest Pedagogy. And The Kite of Perfection is what I think is a concentration of what we teach, though, as I teach it. You know what I mean? As if I was writing it to a brother that was locked up. What if I could write him everything that he would need to know, and then he could move on? He could build. He can, you know, he doesn't have to worry if he doesn't get another letter. Like this is what I was thinking, and I wrote it because I've written many brothers locked up. So sometimes you try to answer in such a way that they get everything. The Blackest Pedagogy, though, is more of a is certainly a creative prose that I wrote about what, and in this case, I, a teacher, will be. And it means a lot to me because I wrote that in 2003, and I had only been teaching for like 2 years. No, oh, 1, 2, 3 years, 3 years in my fourth year, and it's one, it's a piece of my writing my history in advance because the things I wrote in there, I lived them out while I was writing them and after I wrote them. You know what I mean? And that's my essay proving the knowledge degree in the 1 to 40. You know, but it also shows you the pedagogy and how it developed as a reflection or an amplification or an exuding of what I thought were the ultimate principles and ethos of what it means to be a 5% or someone with knowledge of self, someone that is a true and living God, someone that is a true and living earth. You know, that's what that book is, and then it has other little add-ons from essays and other places and media, and I thought that they were useful, including just the lyrics. And thanks to Infinite Mind, the lyrics translated also in Spanish of the song I did with Aguilar for Aguilar and Sadat X's album. I was on a song by myself, uh, the Universal Law degree, and I kind of just gave like what I think this whole reality is. So I thought it'd be nice in the book, you know, just to have it, you know, there in the book. Yeah. But that book is not crucial for anyone to learn with me. Right? But it adds on to my pockets though, and that can't be bad. Can't be bad. Can be all good, all peace. Right? Right? After all these years teaching though, I hopefully I don't get the you know, the thing about using our teachings to make money and things like that, because that's not what that book is. Um, and clearly people haven't been to, don't know about what I've done at the school, to say that, you know what I'm saying? Um, but anyway, um, if someone doesn't have the knowledge of self and reads the book, I think that they would get a lot out of it though, and it would be a very useful, but also um, a very heavy study guide introduction. You know what I mean? Uh, my pros are very concentrated though. You know what I'm saying? You got to add water to them, the water of your time. You know, the water of your time and your insight. You know, to merge with what I have been writing. So anyway, that's what the Peace Course book is about. And of course, if anybody wants it, you could just email me and everything. You know, my prices are always cheaper than where I post the book in Amazon and have it up there. So I always give it to you for a cheaper price if you get it directly from me. You know, with this book too, you know, I found it interesting. People ask for a signed copy, and I'm like, I feel very awkward with this particular book doing that because if you bought that book from me and supported me, which is beautiful, I truly appreciate that. Then that means you want to learn something about this knowledge self, and that's not the relationship that I would want. I don't want people to have my autograph. I want them to say, you know what, when I finish the book, is there a way I could contact you and ask you questions about what was in there about this knowledge and things like that? That's what I would like better, you know, to the populace that reads that book. Just like if I when I write these real books about all this music, I want people to use it like an encyclopedia or you know a guide. You know what I'm saying? To get into the music, all the music, and to have an insight to how all of this is developing all at the same time. You know, they have specific purposes. You know, right? All right. Um, Crypto. If you're doing that, whenever you say, whenever I pray, I just find the answers in myself. That's why I say it's like meditation. Then you're not praying. You're not praying. Okay. The word is incorrect. Then you know what I'm saying. The word is incorrect. You're using the word to apply to that, but it's not the word. Okay. Carl Jung had an interesting theory called the collective unconscious. I think that's something that may be a clue as to how one finds inspiration because nothing is new under the sun. Symmetry said, I do see the correlation between prayer as graft and meditation. Yeah, again, though, like we have to deal with the words the way they are, though. It's enough. It's enough that we have to spend time redefining the word God. You want more work than that word, then you're not realizing how much work you still have to do with uh, defining properly the word God, you know, who Allah is, as opposed to the mysterious accumulation of 99 attributes somewhere in, you know, out there, right? And yet all around us, right? So that's why I say that. Mm. I also think, you know, when we talk about mastery of the student, Symmetry said agreed things can be what they be without mixing. Right, right. You know, let's use our vocabulary to make different words. If it's not true meditation, is let's say the Taoist or yogis would perform it, um, then we come up with a more particular word. But it would be us as 5 percenters to say that our meditation is like prayer. That's this. That's that would be an ideal example of us appropriating a term. Because appropriation is when you're using a term incorrectly and using it wrong, all fucked up, you know, right? So I would definitely not do that. Definitely not. Absolutely not. No way. Don't do it. You know. Yeah, we don't call flying swimming, right? They're separate actions. Yeah, unless we're being metaphorical, right? But no, it just doesn't work. We need a better word because, in my experience of teaching, right, when we do that with words, right, I'm telling you, the the students that are not really built so heavy with this, you're gonna leave them as they're not gonna be in this nation as gods and earths, but you're leaving them as righteous individuals that are falling back into an activity that is not as useful. Instead of sending back righteous individuals that realize I'm not going to pray, but I'm going to see it in myself. I'm going to find a way to tap into my own nature. That's a meditation of a certain level. You know, it's meditative. It's you know, right? Something. Mm. Yeah, mixing words only causes cognitive dissonance. Yeah, it really does because it allows people to just stay the same way because it's like, well, they do it, we do it. You'd be surprised though how much a reappropriated word can still get defined incorrectly because people don't always adapt to people's appropriation of a word. Like we did that with prayer. What happens is that they go back to the mass populace though, and they just reflect the general use of the word. That's why the general use of a word is important. You know what I'm saying? When we redefine God, even though it's generally used incorrectly, right? Because it's not supreme being if we cannot see it and ever see it, but it's the way that we actually activate it, we actualize it. So we're not just saying God, but we're saying that I am God. So what happens is that now the let's say if we were trying to appropriate a word that already means mystery, which it doesn't, but let's say it does, we had actualized it. So we had taken actions that make it very visible about how we use the word. You know, there's no way that you could prove that what you're doing as prayer is not dealing with a mystery God. You see, and it confuses it too. If you say, "No, I have the proofs. I did that. I prayed, and then it led me to think about the things I was saying." You just by that definition, but by the definition of prayer, God, the mystery God, gave you that. Whatever you reached, the mystery God gave you the aha moment. You know what I mean? So it's just it's given mystery is credit. It's giving it credit. You know. Right now, the individual is transferring mystery God with the universe, thinking they're not still dealing with mystery. And the thing is about the universe, right? Is that we're really talking about patterns, about what you give out. But like when people do something amazing, as certain things I've seen this week, what's amazing is what they did, and they caused the mathematics. You know what I'm saying? But that's the whole thing. It doesn't have to make sense, crypto. If you say that you prayed and you got the answers yourself, anyone that deals with prayer, their explanation is going to be that God gave you the answer. God allowed you to come to the answer. And it's all because you're using that word prayer, And that's the problem. That's the problem. It's the word does not mean that. Okay. It's interesting that in any of the traditions that use meditation, whether the Indian traditions or the Chinese and Japanese traditions, they never use the word prayer mixed up with that. You know what I'm saying? These are bastardizations that happen later when you have people praying to Buddha, which is not even that's not what it's a total bastardization. It's total wrong. You know what I mean? By definition, symmetry says you would have to sever your connection to self in order to conduct prayer, which contradicts the purpose of prayer. Right, right, exactly. Right. Yeah. Mm. All right. So many things to type. I did not forget the plus lessons that people wanted. My progress questions that I have to type them. I don't have a physical copy, like a digital copy to mail people, email people. But I'm trying to finish a book, so it's taking my time. Definitely into the new year, I can have a little bit more time. Prayer was introduced as a word in 1300 AD, right, or Common Era, right, and first meant to beg. Yeah. I ain't too proud to pray. No, no, right? Ain't too proud to pray. Right? So it's crazy. Okay. Let's see what we do here. All right. All right. And thank you for seeing that understanding crypto. Like when we master our language and it's don't adapt the language always, but master it. You know, don't conquer the language. Sometimes changing a definition that is actually what the word means, um, it shows that we're trying to master. Excuse me, trying to conquer the language. Don't conquer the language, master it. Use these words as they are, and manipulate them. When they manipulate it, and we make slang, and we do all these things, that's when the words actually you've made them adaptable because you have used their true meaning or their accepted meaning, right? This is what language in the proper way, like we know the proper way. We, we got to beg just to make it today. We beg. Oh shit! What a different song. That's funny. You know what? You know what though? If you in a classroom, I'd kick you out the classroom because now you have MC Hammer in my head. That's that's just foul shit. You know what I mean? How dare you put MC Hammer in my head? Right? Shit. Beg, beg. Man, I hope I have enough music to counter that hook. Seven, I think you have developed a hook. You are the Weird Al Yankovic though of the gods tonight. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah, fast and pray. You know what I mean? But these are, it never did to me because it never worried me because these are Muslim teachings. We took the Muslim teachings and we use them as lessons. So that means that nothing is correct in there. Everything is analyzed. You know what I'm saying? Everything is analyzed. Nothing is to be believed. We don't believe them. We analyze them. We get the best part. You know what I'm saying? The things that are true, we only see them as true if we supplement them with a build of understanding of proof, right? So it would definitely change, and we always change that in our mindset to fast and build, you know, right? And remember, Elijah was doing a bait and switch. He was basically saying that Christianity is fraudulent, though. But then when you look at what he had I mean, you cannot get more white in a vibe than Far Muhammad, the most light-skinned black man that you could think of, and he used him, right? Excuse me, right? And then he replaces the Chris, their Christianity, but you're following him. And instead of being what that degree says, the original man, the true living, you know, the Asiatic black man, right? The maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe. Instead, you are a Muslim who submits to the will of Allah, who came in the person of Master Prophet Muhammad. I mean, they're Muslims. They're not being what the degree says. They're almost like transitional. And they don't like to hear that shit though, but it's true. It's an actual fact. The truth is that by what the teaching says and by how they're Muslims, it's transitional. They're transitional. You know what I mean? Like they're a morphing version of us. We've reached full fruition. They're the caterpillar and shit. You know, very very powerful caterpillar, but caterpillar nonetheless, right? And isn't it though? Isn't it though? You know what I'm saying? Because when the father sees that, the difference between what the father did and what was there was the actualization. You know, they all have it though, but then he's his understanding though. It's all pedagogy. He realized, but the pedagogy is coming from the student, not the teacher. And that's why I said in the beginning of the class, the daring to innovate. This is what makes things greater. If the father didn't have the daring to innovate, though, then we wouldn't be here like this. You know, being the only people that I have known in history to not just teach that the black man is God. This is not new, so it's the truth. It's been taught. Man is God. The ancient texts have it, but to teach it to the children and to make it palatable to youth without worry of ego. We worry about it as teachers. We work on them, but without the worry that says no, we cannot do it. That's a different type of worry, you know. So, right, you know. So they are expected to be the gods one day. They may even admit it though. Black men are gods, like they'll say it, but they're still Muslim. They still submit to the will of Allah who came in the person of Master Muhammad. You know what I mean? And to me, that's transitional. The knowledge is there, but you're not really walking with it and coming to that understanding that that's got to be the way of life. That's got to be the culture. That's what the father did. And think about it. All the exceptional black men, all the exceptional black women that went through the nation of Islam. And yet the father's the only one. No, no, no. See, crypto, that's not really true though. Right? Think about this for a minute, crypto. The we we never disrespected the black mind, the intelligence, right? So that means that those many people that went through the NOI as Muslims, there's no way that they didn't see that as real. But they saw that they would be led to the promised land of being God's one day, and so they will not be that now. See? So it isn't that they don't analyze the lesson correctly, it's the daring to say that that is me. I truly see that it is nearly impossible that they don't come up with this understanding. It says it right there. It says it right there. You know? What the father added to the knowledge degree was father of civilization. He did not add God in the universe. It was already in there. There's no way someone else didn't figure that out, you know? But when times get tough and you lose solutions, And instead of wavering and saying like, "Yo, it's gonna happen," or I need more, I'm willing to work harder. This is all a reality of the true and living being ever developing. He says, "It's in God's hands. It's in God's hands. You do the rest." And that is something emotional. That is something um, that has to do with following the pack. That is hard to break away from. And Elijah created the community, the family oriented community, the self involved community that didn't need anybody else, that could deal um, with the people and community and protect them, like Christianity was doing in the black church. People joining the black church even if they don't care, because this is what you do, and it might help with the clan, it might help with this. You know what I'm saying? Right? And yeah, the uploading of Allah indeed, right? And the hereafter is when they'll be gods. I mean, yeah, but what would be the hereafter? And then that's why it gets into. I told you, when tradition gets enforced without questioning, without logic, you develop the religion further. And what happens though? Well, it's not working. Fard is coming back. You know, you say things like that. Fard is coming back. That's what Elijah said. Fard is coming back. You know, let's put the Dianetics in this. You know what I'm saying? Right? And I'd be remiss to not say L. Ron Hubbard. Say it like Ghostface. You know what I mean? Right? Symmetry, you said Buddhist teachings deal with the same principle. Awakening versus enlightenment, right? Awakening is the path, the process of becoming enlightened. Yeah, you know? And it's all because all of these ancient, you know, teachings of the original man, the difference between them and us is that you have to work at yourself to be able to see yourself as that title, as that reality. Whereas when we teach it, we say you are this reality now, and you're gonna have to work to uphold it, to truly mature into it. The truth is that what we do is not something that other ancient spiritualities at times of ancient original peoples didn't see as a possibility, but certainly disagreed with it greatly. That this would lead to the ego and would not work out so well. You know, I think that people don't really understand how revolutionary it is what the father did. You know, mind blowing. You know, and when you learn it the way I did, and you see elders like they're at that verge of tears because they were with the father, they know what he did, they saw what he did. Those firstborns that did all this, then you understand it. You know, like then you, you understand it immediately when you see that. You know, it's a truth in an ideology, because everything is an ideology when you lump it, that we teach, and because it's a working system, so it can be called an ideology. um it is something that was never taught on the pulpit, was never taught in bulk. The father was very refined. He taught individually, never got on the soapbox, and yet it has traveled this far. You know what I'm saying? Because the people he taught had more potential and abilities than anyone else's group, potential group of students ever in history. It's in Taoist literature. It's in Buddhist literature of many different sects, from Zen to Chan. right? It's in the yogi philosophies, all of those things. But all of those things are different. All of those. You know what I'm saying? All of those things are different, you know? And all of those spiritualities, when they teach it, it is a lifetime that you are getting up to those teachings. And the maturity has to be there first. That is a requisite, and that's why it takes so long. You know what I mean? Right? Father broke that protocol, that unseen, expected protocol. That the youth are great, that they're not going to be egotistical. They're going to be able to hold this. Well, they have been egotistical. They have used it wrongly, but we also taught it right and taught it powerfully. You know, each one teach one, teach one, teach more, teach nine that's born, right? It's peace, God. And Malik, you said a scholar of a different nature. It's interesting, yeah. When I talk about the Father, the video in the Law School of Mecca, the quick video of me talking about the Father as a scholar of a different nature, it has that build, you know, because the longer I have this knowledge, the more I'm in awe of it, you know, how it's taught, how it is embraced, you know, how it works, you know, like it's amazing to me. It's really amazing to me. The original internet. Symmetry, you getting crazy here. That's that I see it. Yeah. There was one I forgot the older God told me. He told me that the entire principles of the mind in the branches of psychology are all in those first three degrees: knowledge, wisdom, understanding. And that influenced me to say why one, two, and three is the inner. You know, it's mind blowing, Symmetry. You know, it's and I'm just saying this. I say it sentimentally because I miss the school, man. I miss going to the school. I miss going to our school. You know what I'm saying? Engaging with the people and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And of course, he caught flack for leaving the mosque, just like Malcolm did. You know. But let me tell you why you don't. He didn't get the problems because I always taught this. Out of the two people that are most famous for leaving the mosque, they dealt with positive and negative teachings. Okay. As I say this, I almost sneezed, so I gotta take a break. Okay. Positive and negative teachings. Now, I'm not saying that one dealt with truth and one didn't deal with truth, but I'm saying that one was on the spectrum of positivity, one was on the spectrum of negativity. Both correct. Malcolm X left though, and he was bent on telling you who the devil was. And that's something that was pointed out by the father to firstborn Prince when they wanted to go to his wake. Prince told me, they said, "Why? I know you going there. Why are you going to see someone that was already dead?" And it wasn't a disrespect. It was basically saying the teachings that he taught were going to get him killed because he was based on the negative aspect. You know what I mean? Excuse me. Based on who the devil is. Battle of the bullet. Who the devil is. Devil be a devil. You know, the devil be deviling. You know what I mean? But the father took the positive aspect, right? When you build with the elders, The actual firstborns, the first fruit, the elders that taught me, they're not talking about devil this, devil that, the devil does this. They're observations. But what they're really telling you is, yo, why the black man is God. When they talk about what the Father gave him, he was teaching why the black man is God. We're neither pro-black nor anti-white. We're pro-righteousness, anti-devilishment. The focus on is why are we the true and living God? It had nothing to do with them. They're here for a purpose though. And once we realize that purpose though, then they could add on. They could, they could return to the essence from which they came, or be part of this righteous reality and do righteous deeds. But that's not our concern. And anybody that says otherwise about what the Father was dealing with, though, they're full of shit. They wasn't there. They wasn't there with the elders. They wasn't learning with the elders. They didn't get a large enough sample size. And that's a problem, too. People talk to one elder and they're like, yeah, this is it. This is what he said he was there. That's not the sample size. My Sigung in martial arts, Sigung Bobby Lee Whitaker, he taught a lot of us gods. You know what I mean? Honorary 5%. He taught a lot of us gods. And yet, if you see the way that I move and the way that my brother Wise Ramel moves and the way that my brother Infinite Mind moves, there's so many glaring differences to the regular, untrained eye that you would think we learn with different teachers. And yet we could do things that show that we learn from the same Sigung. That's what the Father was doing. That's why Medina and Mecca got different things. It had nothing to do with the place. It had to do with the people that were at the place and their particularities then. But over time it becomes, well, this is why Medina's rougher, this and that, and they got this. No, it was the individuals. It's the individuals. Just like it was the individuals in Mecca. Some of those cliches are corny, where it's like Medina's the rougher gods and Mecca's the softer ones. From what time? What time are we talking about? Are we talking about when it started? Because I've seen tough on both sides. So people have manipulations that are not really, they have no basis. And that's why they preserve things that are based on illogical preservation that lead to incoherent traditions that lead to a religious mutation, you know. Actual facts, imagery, yeah. We're rugged wherever. Right? Everywhere. Everywhere. So Malik, you're right. He did catch flack for leaving, He did. And when they challenged him, he was willing to stand on the square. But what he had was different. He had a master youth. And so he had power that was very understated. And that's why Barry Gothard's Mayor's Man, that book becomes important because it seemed that only the mayor, who was very positive, a very positive mayor, realized the power that Allah had with the youth. You know what I mean? A lot of power too. You know? And was being used in a righteous way. It was being used very righteously. Peace to the God King. I saw all the comments you threw on there. You know what I mean? Man, just so I don't have to type, man, I'll just answer some of them. Yeah. I don't know if Carmelo Anthony's now is 120 though. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Judging by what I see though, I'm a gamble and say no. And not because he's not saying more things. It's the way he says certain things. I know the some a lot of times I could tell the level of a student by what they're saying and stuff and what they focus on, you know. But as far as being an ambassador, like he's shown the world that coming on showing yourself with this flag though is has integrity. It has it entails work for the youth. Do you realize that as his playing career has gone, he's gotten more mature? You know, that whole situation where the Knicks were, what was it? They didn't want to put him back in the league and everything. He handled himself with integrity. You know what I'm saying? He didn't go on blabbing and gossiping and stuff like that. I mean, you know, he didn't do the Draymond shit or what these other guys or the passive aggressive stuff that LeBron does, right? A lot of integrity, a lot of integrity, a lot of righteousness. So I mean, in the public sphere where the simple, the great act of simplicity is profound. That to me is profound, you know. So I don't think he has, you know. Um, you know, and as an addendum, I'm kind of giving you an addendum, you know. But a lot of people, Malik was, I was just building with you on that this week about teachers being of this knowledge being so aggressive and shit like that. You know what I mean? And being, you know, being jerks. You know what I mean? And a lot of that happens because they're trying to collect students. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna keep it real. A lot of people, a lot of people try. They even try to compete with me, and it's like that's not the way to go. You're competing with me, and I've been taking small steps for 22 years. You know what I mean? I never held on. All students are water. All of them. All students are water. You know what I'm saying? Right? And if you bottle up students, then you're getting ready to blood suck them because you've only put them in a container for them to be used. You know, how's that for the visual metaphor? Um, and I don't think that's the way. They have to see things for themselves, and they have to be able to be righteous out there using this, whether they are God, earth, or decide to be just righteous, and to the best of their ability. You know, and trying to hold a student is not what this is about. That's why I said I've been saying this in the last class or two. Whatever people are in the nation as God on earth is the perfect number at all times. It is the right number at all times. I never believed in like recruiting. Let people know what you're doing. But recruiting and making sure people are in, let's do it in a way that everybody can be this. No, no, no. Do things in a way where people could learn more. Because if you try to recruit other people to be as you think they ought to be, then you're doing religion. So we're teaching a truth that is right and exact, but we're teaching it religiously, you know? And the harshness, which is the original question of these teachers and sharers of this, the harshness is because they're feeling the effects of bad numbers. But you're supposed to have bad numbers, though. All these years, my percentage is probably, I don't know, what am I hitting? You know, it's not even baseball, like bad baseball, Mendoza line. Like, it's terrible. Like, I'm probably like, I don't know, point oh 0.05. I'm like, I don't know. It's terrible. I don't count. I don't care. I don't care for those numbers. You know what I mean? I care that I said the right thing in the best possible way at each and every turn. And I said this to a very special person this week. I said that I've always taught in such a way where whenever and this is street teaching, and I take it into the classroom because we don't know who's going to come back, but this is street teaching. You learn this well enough because when you teach, you are telling somebody something that could be a possible answer of application, not an answer of application, something they could take home and use it. And you have to learn how to talk to people like that'll be the last time you were able to talk to them. and teach them something and share something with them. If you take your conversation as a teacher that important, you start to say more useful things and less egotistical things to just have people recruited and have numbers. That's my black seed, that's my brown seed, that's my yellow seed, that's my this. If I did that, it'd be a whole brigade. And I don't hold water like that. You know? Teachings of the Kabbalion, yeah, that was one of the first books that my elder Savior Knowledge gave me, the Kabbalion, yeah, absolutely. Would the hereafter be the future or the next generation? But it's to me, it's an irrelevant future. To me, I think that sometimes it's an irrelevant future because what what is a good future? What is a good future for you may be an uncontent present for that future generation, right? So it's all in our framework, you know. Mr. G, when you see the devil, smack him. You asked me, have you read or heard of the book called The African Bilalian and the Martial Arts? The Black Contributions to the Fighting Arts. No, that sounds like a great book. I'd like to read that. You know, hopefully it has like actual reference materials and not just saying that they did this and that. You know, and I think that's a worthy research project because I think when people say like, "Yo, the um," they look at Chinese kung fu and they go, "No, that's all black people made that up." First of all, you're separating, but at the same time, though, you're not really separating correctly because the innovations that the Chinese gave it though have clearly taken it to a level that was not there before, and there are hundreds and hundreds of years. There's so many things that haven't been that the average martial artist hasn't even seen, and I'm saying this from personal experience that you have to give that credit where it's due. You know what I'm saying? But the contributions to the fighting arts of each of the original peoples throughout the world, though, I think are a reality. You know, I'm trying to look up the book now. Let's see. This author in Amazon has a very diverse, and this book apparently the one you mentioned is according to Amazon says 1975. But look at a very nice diversity of topics here. That martial arts one, Devil and Elijah Muhammad. What else? Book on capoeira. Interesting. But no, I've never heard of that book. I would love to see it though. If 1975 is the publication date, it might be out of print. Might be out of print. That's peace, Malik. That's peace. No shit. If I was doing this long, I would have known something about this shit, right? Good question. You said the NOI had actual facts in there. With Supreme Wisdom. When did the law add the solar facts? Um, Solar facts was if I remember, solar facts was added before the actual facts. No, after, and it was kind of done to round out. You know, I don't know when exactly though. You know, I know that I was with Firstborn Prince when he fixed up some of the actual facts. You know, but Mr. G when he said it's an old scroll, I got a copy from a spot. It's a thin scroll, much like much less than 100, somewhere around 75. Let's drop the PDF scan and email your cap. Oh, I would love that. I would love that. That would be great to read. And if you scan it, I could share it with others too, obviously. I would love, but I would love to see that. Very interested, you know? Absolutely. Sunez Lou, yeah. I love Gordon Liu. I love Gordon Liu. You know? Such a legend. All right, I'm always here for 3 hours. I always try to be here for 3 hours. So I definitely will be here. So I started exactly at 6, so I'll be here till 9. Okay. Anybody has questions and stuff? I spent so many years collecting kung fu movies from the spots. You know what I mean? Going to, I especially would always go to, Fulton Street. Go to DeKalb Avenue in Medina, and be there at the stores there. All the collect a collection of shitty copies, shitty DVD copies, and they look so much better on YouTube. It's too funny, too funny. Okay. Appreciate that 783. Thank you. To me, an honorary 5% is someone that did something for the 5%. And when I say my Seagung Bobby Whitaker, who's black man, knowledge seed, taught us kung fu. He took us in. Like, he's not someone that we went to learn kung fu and we paid him. We gave him money. We gave him things if we could. When we could. But he taught us for free. You know what I'm saying? And he did that for us though. And he did it for all the gods that went there to learn. And so he became part of the nation on that level where he was teaching all of us stuff for free. And he knew what our mission was. And he taught us in regard to that mission of how to survive in the street. So, like, that's what I mean by honorary 5%er. You know what I mean? The truth is, he did more for the 5% than a lot of 5%ers have done. You know, all time, all time. I love my seat on Bobby Lee Whitaker. But that's what I mean. That's what I mean by honorary 5%er. People like Mayor John Lindsay seen as honorary 5%ers. You know, for what they did. You know, for us. You know. Symmetry said, in regards to keeping a journal, do you see a difference keeping a physical journal versus writing in a device like a phone? I've always kept a physical journal and I love keeping it. Um, and I don't switch up because I would like to at least have one place where I actively use my hands, you know? Although I don't subscribe to the thing like things you write with your hands is always gonna come out better than what you write with things. That's people that don't write that much though. That's not true at all. You know, I write the fly shit on any digital device though. And when I kill it, that shit is anywhere. It don't matter. You know what I mean? And the truth is there's more power to create. There's more power to create. I see words as puzzles. There's more power to create like that on a computer where you can mix and match easier and move your words around. That's less than impossible. People think that writing is just a down the line thing. You craft it from up to the from line to line and top to bottom. But that's not like I don't see writing that way. I see writing as a whole puzzle. You know, a pieced puzzle. So the using the computer actually is better. You know, but being able to write and that action of writing though, I just feel like it has its special intimacy, and being that it's one of the ways to write, I don't want to lose that. So I stay writing in the physical journals. You know, I would like to see. I would like to see not. I would like to see that survive. You know, and sometimes with something grand like that, we need to have it survive. You know, right? Because they do have their worth. You know, and also too, right? There are people who write so much better physically with the and how would they know that if they weren't shown that? You know, and that's important too. You know, also sometimes too, it's nice to get away from the digital sometimes and just go to that. You know, 793rd. You said my African brothers right next to the Apollo used to hold me down. Mid 90s to transfer the Jet Li classic others at that time from Laserdisc to be. Yeah, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, right by the Apollo. Yeah, there was a place there too. You went up the stairs and they had a whole bunch of stuff. I forgot the place. You go up the stairs. Yeah. Yeah, Shaw had the best. Yeah, Shaw Brothers. Shaw Brothers. You know, it's a movie I love that I gotta see Killer Army again. Killer Army. That was a great movie. Mrs. G1U said, I acknowledge Alan Watts inside on YouTube. He got some prolific content. What are your thoughts on him? If you're familiar or whatever. If not, check out the entitled Have We Forgot Who We Are? I've read Alan Watts. I know of Alan Watts, and I think he was commendable. You know what I'm saying? Symmetry. Yeah, I haven't read the book. I read one very short book of his, and I found his work to be profound. He's a Buddhist adept, you know, because he wasn't, he's white, but the way he explained the principles is sometimes was profound because he was explaining it in a language that is more Western, and that was good, you know. So I definitely don't see reading his books as a waste. That's right. That's right. Right. Liu Chia Hugh. Crypto. You said, how do you see the pyramids all over the world? You think they were using high science technology? How advanced was the original man in your eyes? How is it that we lost it to a graphic devil? There's a loaded question there. Many of the answers are in the lessons already, but it was high science that they were using, mathematics to a high degree. It also proves that there's communication throughout the globe. So we were traveling everywhere, and that's a misnomer that the average 85 has. Um, and advancement, technological advancement to me is not linear. It is this way. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the ancients during those ancient times did not make up things that we saw today because their mentality was to create things that would not harm. And so that leaves out most of the inventions that are being made today in this Western world, you know, right? Uh, okay. Um, how, right? Okay. And we lost it to Graph the Devil because dissatisfaction, wanted to see something else. The possibilities of something else went too far in one lane. That's really all it is. That's all it is, right? And so we separated ourselves, and then the actual manifestation of that becomes physical with the devil, right? Symmetry, you said no doubt. I see the handwriting is a good practice for concentrated mental application. It helps to develop focus. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Appreciate those book suggestions. I might cap those myself. I think I collected a lot of Alan Watts, but there's a lot of guys I collect, but I haven't gotten to reading. So I take those suggestions as good starting points for them. Appreciate that. Yeah, they just weren't organized. I let everybody know how much I have of Alan Watts. Alan Watts. Just didn't make a folder. So you said the wisdom of insecurity. Yeah, I do have that book. The book, just titled the book. That okay. Okay, so the book is on the taboo against knowing who you are. I have that too. Yeah. Okay, so if anybody wants those, I'll definitely email them to you. I have those. You know, I actually have 13 Alan Watts books, and none of these digital ones I don't think are the ones I read. I read a short pocket book of his that I had. Let me see if I can find instead of going through my library. Alan Watts pocket book. No, I can't find it. I searched and it's giving me real pocketbooks. Nice fail, Amazon search engine. Um, yeah, yeah, competition is none, right, King? Um, Symmetry, you said he's a color man who studied Theravada, so his insights are heavily Buddhist influence indeed. Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like just Buddhism in the Western language, which can be useful. I mean, what is that's as a man thinketh? I give as a man thinketh to all the students as a primer, and that's the Dhammapada in westernized form, which is very useful. It's in the language of that we can understand. You yeah, but my guy in the modern era is definitely Jiddu Krishnamurti. I think my favorite philosophers of the modern era that they lived during our times, Jiddu Krishnamurti and Osho was up there too. Jiddu Krishnamurti, Thich Nhat Hanh, and I gotta put Osho, even though he's a legend. he was a legend 10% though with his shit. He was doing some shit. But his books aren't 10%ing, which is amazing. He has some incredible thoughts, you know. Um, but those three guys come to mind as my. Oh, you know what? I have to add more the martial artists that influenced me greatly too. Moriya Shiba and even Bruce Lee, because his writings are very philosophical. You know, right? You know, if you know, I don't know about Muji. I got to do the knowledge to him. Definitely, I didn't know about him, but he's definitely more definitely modern, like right now. Yeah. Um, yeah. Anybody interested in Jiddu Krishnamurti? I have a ton of books of Jiddu Krishnamurti. I'll tell you how many I have, aside from the ones I physically have, but just digitally that I could share. 72. Yeah, I went in. I went in. You know, that is interesting, crypto. You know, the way the world is connected. Yeah, I don't know which one I had though. I don't know which one I had. That the pocketbook I read at. I'm not sure which one it was. I have it in my book in my library, but I gotta look for it though. But I can only talk about my digital. You know, that's a good one. If you don't mind, the Jidus, yeah, education and significance of life. Yeah, Jojen, Ponlop, Sadhguru. Yeah, Sadhguru is pretty interesting too. Sadhguru has some interesting stuff too. There are definitely a lot of guys, you know, out there. Chagyam Chupra, Trungpa is interesting. The obligatory Deepak Chopra has interesting books. You know what I mean? We kind of have to put Paramahansa Yogananda as a modern philosopher, and of course his legendary book, uh, Autobiography of a Yogi. You know, definitely had to. Pima Chadran has some interesting books. You know, again, I got anybody's interested in any of this stuff. I got a lot of books. Mhm. Ponlop I don't have though, so I have to open things on them and collect the hell out of them. Yo, that's an interesting thought. I think Infinite Mind. You said I think a lot of the world's relative architecture had a lot to do with psychedelics. How? I'm interested. Like how? Like what would that entail? You know, that is a good book. Emblem, yeah. You know, haven't heard from the God in a long time though. He's a great writer. I love the way he writes. I'm on it. Symmetry, Rebel Buddha. There we go. I'm on it. Uh, Infinite Mind, you said many of these mystery schools had many rituals where they took psychedelics. Got you. Got you. Yeah, I would really like to know more about that build. That's interesting. Very intriguing. The tree of life is said to be a psychedelic tree founded in ancient Kemet, same tree you find in a Timberland brand. Okay, right. Okay. All right. If anybody has any questions about anything, please let me know. You know, we only got. I'm gonna be here for. I'm gonna be here till 9, so it's like 10 minutes left. Okay. Uh, Terrence McKenna. Okay. Also, the tree of Kabbalah. Symmetry. You said I actually work in a field called biotexture texture, which deals with the human body and its correlation to architecture. That is intriguing. Really? Wow. I'm I'm intrigued by this. It's like an even deeper look about it. It sounds like an even deeper, like because that makes sense. Yeah, interesting. Hmm. That's right. Infinite Mind. The Temple in Man would definitely be an example of that. Yeah, yeah. So an example is how a cardio system veins are like electric wiring at home. In home, we build houses similar to our body construct. You know what? The Infinite Mind. That's exactly like when you say it like that. I mean, yeah, the Temple in Man. Our Shwala de Lubitz. You know, yeah, that's exactly what Shwala was recognizing and what the ancient people of Kemet were doing. Ventilation is respiratory system, right? Infinite Mind. You said study acacia tree. Hmm. I am on it though. Yeah, it's when you say all the what the temple in man, it takes me back that it's like see sometimes a lot of sciences though I haven't delved into them and realized that they have elevated since the last time I was introduced to them. That would be definitely a case. That's amazing. That's amazing. Look at that. The wonders of teaching. We leave the classroom and there's so many things that I have to study now. That amazing authors to collect now, and everything else, just as everybody here. So. Nobody has learned more from this class than I have. That's a fact. You know? Absolutely. Fractals, infinite mind says, and geometric images have always been something that people have taken away from these rituals. Many, many we find on the walls of the architectures. It's big in Mayan culture and architecture. Symmetry, you said the attic and easy attic is the mind, right? Or the attic in the home where the highest upper light is kept. That's a build. 7930 said, indeed, as all of me snapping screenshots full of jewels. This case rebroadcast another chat. No, 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 no. The Don't worry about that, 7930. I always put the chat up though because I like to use the chat as a blackboard. And of course, when you guys say something, I'm answering to it. And in this case, a lovely thing is when people add on and stuff like that. You know, teaching at the school, the classroom is supposed to be a network. The classroom is your laboratory where you experiment as a student, but it's also a network, and that teacher should be able to facilitate to get all the other uh, genius minds of this nation to add on and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And God's like symmetry, infinite mind. If they're in your cipher, you got to build with them, you know, or you're not doing your due diligence, you know. So the network is vast, though. It isn't just Sunya's and me alone, you know. I've always said that. Infinite Mind knows, you know, I always say that, you know. Um, and that's the way it is, you know. Because when the class is over, we're all studying, we're all adding on, we're all, you know, completing this and keeping it ever born, you know. All right, so unless there's any major questions, though, I will end the session for tonight. Um, collect some of these books, check them out, and beef up my collection even bigger. Right? And definitely, this is one of the. Okay, I got another name. Got it. That's peace, God. That's real peace. You know? All right, so I said I would end at the born hour. Right, so definitely email me. You know what I'm saying? Anyone that has been doing the knowledge, you want to learn, go on a deeper level than just the watching, but be a student in this knowledge itself. Um, let me know. That's important. You know. Yeah, that's peace. I'm glad that it was useful. You know, I'm glad that it was useful. Pretty soon I'll get back into the school and we'll be doing all this there where it should be. You know, so we can have people with me and all y'all online, and we do it both ways. You know what I mean? But with that said, I'm gonna say peace and keep building. You know, create, make things. You know what I mean? Try your hand at things. You know what I mean? All right. Peace. All right. Till next time.